Hi and welcome. On this map, I always play from a position in grid square C4, but the gameplay starts right from the spawn, so I need to explain how to reach the spot quickly and effectively. As soon as we leave the spawn, our attention should shift slightly to the left of point B. Within a few seconds, you'll often spot the first enemy tanks rolling in. Keep moving forward, and once you crest the hill, you'll want to check the gap between these two buildings. Enemies can show up there as well. In my previous video, I explained most things using the empty map, which made editing a lot easier for me. Plus, a lot of you mentioned in the comments that it's easier to understand the information when there's no combat going on. So in this video, I'm combining footage from the empty map with real gameplay situations. If you're only here for the theory, feel free to skip the parts where you see in-game example in the top left corner. Whenever that text appears, I'll turn off the background music and my voiceover so you can clearly hear exactly what I was hearing during the match. As soon as we arrive at the position, the first thing we do is check this part of the screen. If you got here in a fast tank, there's a good chance you can catch slower enemy vehicles moving in. When I was first learning how to play this spot, I remembered the positioning like this. Your hull should be facing the building with the destroyed roof. With that alignment, even tanks with just 5 degrees of gun depression will be able to use this position effectively. This is actually a pretty unique position. From here, you're basically spawn camping straight from the middle of the map. Whether that was intentional map design or just another oversight from the devs, I'll let you be the judge. Now let's go over a few possible situations you might run into during the match. The first thing you need to understand is this. Enemy tanks will definitely be on the other side of the hill we're sitting on. Trying to push over the hill to get a kill is a terrible idea. You'll get punished instantly by enemy players driving up from their spawn. You should also be aware that enemies might try to hit you from the right. In most cases, you'll hear them coming. Engine sounds from that direction are pretty noticeable. But in the heat of battle, it's easy to lose track of what's going on, and sometimes you'll get taken out from the right simply because you weren't paying close enough attention. You also need to keep an eye on the minimap. If our teammates didn't push toward point B, or if they lost the fight for it, the enemy will most likely start pushing us right after capping it, and we need to be ready to meet them head-on. Guys, I know this is a lot of information to take in, but I really recommend watching the next in-game example instead of skipping it. Yeah, it's a bit long, but it'll give you a much clearer idea of what exactly I've been talking about. As you can see, in just over 3 minutes I managed to pick up 7 kills. This position really offers some interesting gameplay. Now let's talk about what to do if your team actually holds point B and no one is pushing you. Honestly, it's super simple. Just sit tight and farm anyone rolling out of their spawn. I don't think this part needs much explanation. I'm sure you'll figure out for yourselves how to trade your shells for research points and silver lions. If at any point during the match you feel like you can't handle the pressure anymore, it's time to reposition and fall back behind the previous hill. You'll give up a small part of the map, but it's something you can always try to retake later. Guys, all of this works just as well on the smaller version of this map. To be honest, I don't really want to make a separate guide for the smaller version of this map, because I'd just be repeating everything I've already covered in this video. By the way, I've seen some players start the match by heading straight to this hill, but that's not really my playstyle. I prefer to be on the front lines early and keep this hill as a fallback option if things get too hot. And I'll be honest with you, this isn't the easiest position to play, but it's exactly these kinds of positions that really help you improve in War Thunder. So at the very least, give it a try and see how it works for you. Also, once we're in C3, we're pretty much staying there until the end of the match. There's no real need to move. This spot already puts serious pressure on the enemy spawn. Before we jump into the gameplay on the other side of the map, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for supporting the channel with your likes, comments, and views. It honestly means a lot and keeps me motivated to keep creating content. I truly appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for helping me become a pretty well-known content creator in such a competitive and tough niche like War Thunder. Also, a special shout-out to everyone who hit the join button and became channel members. You guys are absolute legends. By the way, an exclusive video with full gameplay and my voiceover commentary explaining what I'm doing and why on the smaller version of this map will be released for you a couple of days after this guide goes live. From the opposite side, we're also going to play around the center of the map, right next to the same hill we talked about earlier in this video. As soon as we reach the D3 sector, we need to look between these two buildings. There's a good chance you'll catch an enemy crossing there. Our goal is to get to this position and come to a full stop. Now we can basically split our screen into two parts. In the lower part, we've got enemies mindlessly rushing toward point B. Most of the time, those are free kills. In the upper part of your screen, there's the hill players use to get to point C, and sometimes they'll even fight from up there. That hill is our main threat, and we need to keep a very close eye on it at all times. You should also keep in mind that there's a good chance an enemy will be on the hill right in front of you. In other words, they're using the exact same strategy as we are, just mirrored. Obviously, pushing up that hill is a really bad idea. If you want to try taking out the enemy there, you can use the same flanking move I mentioned earlier when we were covering the other side of the map. Personally, most of my deaths on this position happen because I don't keep an eye on the left side. If my team doesn't take control of the town, the enemy can just roll up to this spot and get a perfect line of sight on all my teammates pushing toward points C and B. Overall, our job here is pretty straightforward. If the enemy takes the town, we need to keep checking the left side from time to time. If they take point C, we need to keep an eye on the right. Our main task is to hold point B and take out any enemies coming out of their spawn and heading toward the center of the map. In most cases, we can stay on this position until the end of the match, racking up kills and locking down point B. If you learn how to play this hill properly from both sides, this map might just become one of your favorites. It'll consistently deliver a solid number of kills, or at the very least, you'll stop wanting to leave it as soon as it loads. Of course, all the lines of sight and flanking moves work both ways, and after a few dozen matches from both sides of the hill, you'll have a great understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of these positions and how to make the most of them in battle. By the way, if you do feel like pushing forward and doing a bit of spawn camping, you've got two options. The safer one is to move up to this position right here. From this spot, you can safely farm enemies as they leave their spawn. However, it's not an ultimate position. Sometimes the enemies will slip through, and you won't be able to take them out in time. And the high-risk option, which only really makes sense toward the end of the match, is to push all the way onto the enemy spawn, right here. Just keep in mind, for this one your tank needs to have good gun depression, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. Guys, I'd really love to hear your feedback on the in-game example segments. Should I keep them in, or do they not really add much to the guide? Do they actually help you understand what's going on better? Or just break the flow? Don't hold back. Feel free to say whatever you think, even if it might seem a bit harsh. I make these videos for you, and I truly appreciate any criticism that helps me improve the content. I hope this video was helpful and that you'll have an easier time on this map from now on. That's all from me for today. See you in the next one.